Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely.
Canada is a nation built on ordinary people doing extraordinary things. It was the prairie farmers who turned barren land into the world's greatest breadbasket. It was the workers who carved a national railway through mountains so grand that they seemed immovable. It was the veterans who fought tyranny overseas and then returned home in order to build into communities here in this nation. And it was and continues to be the inventors, the builders, the entrepreneurs, and the newcomers who have used their skills, their hands, and their knowledge to build Canada and make us a nation that is admired around the world. And at every turning point in our history, it was the determination, the creativity, and the grit of the people that spurred us forward. And today, despite the heavy burdens on them, Canadians remain our greatest source of hope. They want to build, they want to contribute, they want to provide for their families and to see our communities thrive. They do not want, and they do not need, yet another government handout. The honourable member just gave an entire speech for 10 minutes outlining program after program after program. There is nothing empowering about that. Canadians want to be effective on their own. They need a government that trusts them. They need a government that removes barriers and unleashes their potential. In other words, they need a government that facilitates opportunity and empowers them to do great things. That's what Canadians want. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that is not what this budget delivered. Instead, Budget 2025 was all but that. It really was a chance. It really was. It really was this government's opportunity to put their trust in the Canadian people, to launch them forward, to help them succeed by simply facilitating an environment of economic prosperity rather than laying out program after program after program, which makes Canadians small and the government big.
Yes. That's right.
It's insulting, and Canadians are tired of it. I'll give you an example. In question period, we've been asking about affordability, and recently the Secretary of State for Children and Youth said that if you're a senior struggling to afford food or a parent struggling to pay for baby formula, the Liberals have an answer for you. The school food program. Just sign those seniors up and get those babies to the school food program. And they went on to say, now with regards to rent and mortgage, this is what the Minister of Jobs and Families had to say. Well, those that are having a hard time putting a roof over their head, don't worry, there's a national dental care program. Oh, okay. So, Mr. Speaker, if these suggestions sound ludicrous to you, it's because they are. They are absolutely ludicrous. Because the problem for someone who's having a hard time putting a roof over their head isn't going to the dentist and getting a teeth cleaning. The problem for a family that can't actually afford to buy baby formula isn't to sign their infant up for a school feeding program. In what world does a sophisticated government offer such solutions? I guess in Canada. I would remove the word sophisticated from government, however. Canadians don't want another handout. They don't want another program. They want more freedom. They want more opportunity. They want their hard-earned money left in their pocket so that they have choice, so that they have dignity, so that they can advance themselves and their families. And that's what this government fails to see. In my area, small businesses are the lifeblood of the community, but they are suffocating under inflation and taxation and over-regulation by this government. Over years after years of overspending and mismanagement, this Liberal government has created this affordability crisis that Canadians from coast to coast are experiencing. When government takes on debt, and I mean $80 billion worth of debt, as they did in this budget, it simply passes it on to Canadians through increased taxation and increased inflation. It's Canadians who ultimately bear that. And so it's one of the most unkind things that this government could have possibly done to Canadians. It's cruel.
It is. Yep.
Many people ask what we would do differently as Conservatives. Well, let me begin with the fundamentals. Fundamentally, we believe in people, We believe they are the creators, the innovators, and the problem solvers that will take this nation forward. We believe that they're capable, that they're resilient, that they're ready to build a stronger country when the government would simply get out of the way and allow them to succeed. A conservative government would chart a different course, one that brings home powerful paychecks by cutting waste, lowering taxes, and restoring fiscal responsibility. We would reduce the debt load that's burdening Canadians. We would reward municipalities that build homes. We would enforce housing targets, and we would lower construction costs. In short, we would restore hope because we believe in the Canadian people.
That's right.
And on that note, Canadians aren't just looking for hope when it comes to affordability, they're also desperate for hope when it comes to their safety and their well-being. And again, this government is found lacking. Violent crime is up, extortion is up, sexual assault are up, gun crime is up. Crimes against children are out of this world, a rate unprecedented. Repeat offenders are cycling in and out of jail. The member opposite scoffs as if it isn't true, but he knows it is. If only he would listen to a few of his constituents. This is because of broken laws from this government. Criminals are being let out on the streets after only serving a fraction of their time, and sometimes their time for heinous crimes such as assault are spent in their living room, not even behind bars, thanks to this Liberal government's lackadaisical laws.
Yeah, that's right.
Conservatives would end these policies. We would end catch and release. We would restore jail time for criminals. And across the country, for crying out loud, we would put victims ahead of those that commit crimes. In my riding, we are not exempt. I have sat down with the parents who have lost children to crime. I have sat down with children who have lost parents to crime. This is real in this country, and it is having a devastating effect. Children's advocacy centers are doing incredible work, but they are insufficiently funded. There's something that this government could have made an investment in and instead turned a cold shoulder to. Victim services received cutbacks. RCMP received cutbacks.
Absolutely.
Laws have become weaker. Criminals are being favored. Why? Why? Why does this government so fundamentally believe that anyone but the victim should be stood for? We will continue the good fight. There are many justice bills that have been put forward from this side of the House, calling for greater severity when it comes to heinous crimes, advocating for victims. My own private member's bill is one of those, calling for justice when it's a sexual assault crime, standing up for victims and making sure that they receive what is theirs. We will continue that good fight. And speaking of fight, we are pleased to see that in this Budget Implementation Act, the government added a clause to the Broadcasting Act to protect privacy. Good job. Sadly, however, Bill C-11 in itself is just a horrendous bill, and so I must take the opportunity to talk about that. It is the worst censorship legislation that this country has ever seen. It likens us to places like North Korea and China and Turkey, places that we would never want to become, because it controls what people can see and say and post online. It puts this government in control of how people use the internet. Now, fortunately, this government has wrapped themselves up in this legislation so horrendously that it's taken them over 2 years to figure out how to implement it. So even though it passed in June of 2023, it actually still isn't in effect. Because it's such a terrible bill, they don't know what to do with it.
That's right.
The CRTC is confused. There's court cases that are happening because it's so badly blundered. I celebrate that personally because at the end of the day, it's Canadians who benefit. Bill C-11 should be scrapped altogether. The protection of Canadians' freedom should be in place. Budget 2025 shows Canadians exactly what this government truly is. It's the same old Liberals with the same old habits, overspending, overreaching, and under-delivering. It's a horrendous budget that does an incredible disservice to Canadians, and I will be proudly voting no.
Well done.